We're going to be talking about differential reinforcement today. Go back to the first screen. Did it jump ahead on Avita? How do you guys like?
I like that.
It didn't move when I clicked it?
Maybe it moves on like when it's done with the, I don't know, who knows.
Okay.
Differential reinforcement consequence strategy. So what are we thinking about here when we say differential reinforcement? What are we thinking about? I love how you said that, because that's what I say too. Different reinforcement, right? For certain behaviors, we're going to be reinforcing differently, right? That's all it means, different reinforcement. A lot of times these ABA terms, you could simplify them down and make them easier. So differential reinforcement is different reinforcement. And we have consequence strategies. So when should these strategies typically occur? After what?
A behavior.
After a behavior. So these are strategies we use after behaviors occur, right? This is that's where we're pinpointing. So in your behavior support plan, these are the strategies that should belong in the what section? What section? Consequence. Say it loud and proud. Consequence strategies. That's where we're going to put these strategies, and they're going to occur after behavior, and we're going to differentially reinforce behaviors. Any questions about differential reinforcement or the first slide or anything to add? All right, cool. Let's go on. Okay. So we're going to talk about teaching ways to promote learning by living a healthy life. We're going to talk about the types of consequences. And then finally, we're going to talk about the types of differential reinforcement in this training, in this half-hour-long training. We're going to do all that. So brain-derived neurotropic factor. So, and I know this is kind of a lot of like antecedent stuff we're going to talk about first for a consequence strategy, but this is very important. And what do we mean by brain-derived neurotropic factor? Anyone? Well, it's a protein that plays a crucial role in the brain, particularly in neuronic survival, growth, and plasticity. So when we have, hey, how are you? When we have very high BDNF, our learning and our brain is able to learn things much quicker, right? When we have high BDNF, our brain's able to repair itself and grow and learn at higher rates than it could with low BDNF. So with our work, and we're teaching and we're reinforcing behavior, we are teaching the brain, having high BDNF is very important for us, for our VIPs, and that's kind of making learning more efficient. That's what this means, this complicated definition. It's essential for learning, memory, and various brain functions. In the past, growing up, at least I remember, it was like if you damage your brain, there's no repairing it. Have you guys heard that before? Once brain cells die, there's no repairing that. Have you guys heard that before growing up? Well, that's not true. They learned that is not true. The brain can actually regrow and repair itself. And the higher the levels of BDNF they discovered, the more capable our brains are in doing that. So it's essential for learning, memory, and various brain functions. Increases brain plasticity, which means it could repair and regrow itself. When your brain cells get damaged or face stressful situations, BDNF protects them and helps them come back stronger. So there we go. So high BDNF is especially important for our folks that may have some damages to their brain or went through traumatic situations. The high BDNF can really help repair and regrow their brain. So really important for our work and really important to understand this. Does anyone have anything to add about BDNF so far, or anything to ask? All right. So there's ways you could increase BDNF, and these are good strategies to put in your treatment plan, and these are good strategies to do with your VIPs when you're working with them, right? Because these kind of things are going to help our VIPs' brains, and they're also fun to do, right? And these are all stuff, it's not unreasonable to think that these healthy things are going to be good for our brain, right? And we know this. Exercise, right? We talk a lot about antecedent exercise or developing an exercise routine for our VIPs. And Sue, we know how important that is, right? To exercise regularly. Well, it's good for the body, but also good for the brain. Enriched environments, having fun stuff around, right? Not being in a bland environment like the basement with stinky smells. Sorry, that was... Sorry. Enriched environments, right? We want that good environment. We want that environment with a lot of positive reinforcers. We want that environment that our VIPs can maybe decorate their rooms. We're talking about having fun stuff for them to engage in. We're talking about that enriched environment, that fun environment. And when we have fun environments, we're less likely to see escape maintain behaviors. We're less likely to see behaviors to get objects because we're kind of have a ton of objects in front of us that we enjoy, right? So that enriched environment can help with BDNF. Simply sunlight, getting outdoors. I mean, after winter, how good does that sun feel? And sorry to bring up winter, but that sunlight feels so good. Why? Well, it's our body telling us like, hey, we were missing out on some of this sunlight. So getting outdoors, enjoying nature. Being social, hanging out with friends, right? Hanging out at program, being involved in social groups. These things really promote brain growth and good BDNF. Deep sleep. And how many of our VIPs have sleep apnea or some kind of sleeping disorder that they struggle with sleeping, reaching that REM sleep, which is very important for brain repair. So that deep sleep could be an avenue for us to look into and help our VIPs with the help of doctors. Meditation, it could be another way, or relaxation, meditation. A low-carb diet, and managing stress. Stress can really cause havoc on our brains, right? So managing our stress. There's also other ways, food, healthy foods, drugs and supplements like turmeric, dark chocolate, and fatty fish. And these are just several of the many, many things that we could implement in our life and the lives of our VIPs to help promote increased BDNF. So why are we learning about all these antecedent strategies in this consequence strategies training? Go ahead.
A lot of this could prevent or decrease some of the behaviors.
Yeah, and also we're going to help with our learning process. When we apply reinforcement, our strategies are going to be that much more effective if our VIPs are living a healthy life. It's all good. I love it.
Sorry.
It reminds me of like a Nintendo game.
I just love that you didn't notice.
I was free job.
You're fine. You are fine. You are fine. Right? So these kind of ideas are going to make reinforcement that much more effective. And that is precisely what we want to do, provide effective reinforcement. Any questions about BDNF? Okay, we're going to move right along. Now we're going to talk about effective reinforcement. We just mentioned it. We know that BDNF, these healthy activities, these healthy foods, these healthy things that we can help our VIPs do. And do we want to do things just by what we enjoy, or what do we want to do with our VIPs? What was it?
What they enjoy.
Yeah, we want to learn about their preferences and build some of these ideas and individualize the plan to what they would like. So when we have good BNF, we're going to our reinforcement is going to be that much more effective. And these are some more ideas about delivering effective reinforcement. And the first thing is that reinforcement to be effective should be delivered immediately. It's very important. Reinforcements that's delayed is not effective to change behaviors. Reinforcement that's delivered immediately is what's effective to change behaviors. And we could maybe give some examples, right, Natalia?
Yeah,
Right? And I'll give you an example that I always give, and you guys probably heard me say this a lot, but it really hits home. In the past, I grew up in the 90s, okay? I know that I'm like, I don't know if that's old or not. I'm scared to say anything about it. I grew up in the 90s, right? So in the 90s, no one wore their seatbelt. I don't know if you guys were around in the 90s, no one, and probably prior to that, no one wore their seatbelt. It was like a free-for-all in the car. You got in the car, no one wore their seatbelts, right? Well, think about the consequence for not wearing your seatbelt, right? It's delayed. I don't wear my seatbelt, and maybe it's not certain either. Maybe, and we'll talk about certain too. Maybe we'll get into an accident. Maybe we won't, right? Maybe we'll get pulled over by the police. Maybe we won't, right? So the consequence is very far away, and it's not likely or unlikely to happen. So no one wore their seatbelt. Very ineffective to change behaviors. So more recently, they put a new piece of technology into cars. And the car companies grew wise to this immediate reinforcement. So what did car companies put in their car that now everyone, when you get into a car, typically puts their seatbelt right away? I rarely see someone not wearing their seatbelt. What did they put in place? The beeping noise, right? And the beeping noise happens, it occurs, and most people don't like that beeping noise. You engage in a behavior, putting your seatbelt on, and then what happens?
It stops.
The beeping stops. So what's that an example of? What kind of reinforcement is that example of? It's immediate, but what kind of example? When I take away an aversive. Negative reinforcement. Exactly correct. So this reinforcement that's delivered immediately is very effective to change behaviors, right? So now when I get in my truck, I put my seatbelt on right away without even any beeping occurring, right? So that kind of intervention worked very nicely on me. I'm sure it worked very nicely on the general population as well, because most people are wearing their seatbelts now. Okay, so immediate. So reinforcement that's delivered immediate is much more effective. Distinct. So when we're providing verbal praise, we want to make sure that we are being distinct about it. I don't know.
Yeah, descriptive.
No, descriptive is another one. Distinct is like making sure like the person's like paying attention, I believe. Let's continue.
I get ahead.
Descriptive. So when we're giving positive praise statements, we want to describe what?
What you're doing.
Yeah, what we enjoyed seeing. And how many times do we hear people say, "Good job, nice work"? Well, that's fine. That's okay. And that could provide that reinforcing effect we're looking for. But if you want to deliver effective reinforcement, we're going to say what instead?
What they were doing.
Yeah, good job with what?
Washing
Showering.
hands.
I was thinking washing hands too. Out of all the behaviors in the world, why does it come to the bathroom behaviors? I don't know. But yeah, good job washing your hands. I really like how you lathered up. Great job using that paper towel, right? You guys laugh, but this is what we all are doing at work. Right? So descriptive, right? So that's being descriptive. Then we have what? We have preferred. We're going to make sure we know what our VIPs prefer, right? And we're going to deliver these items immediately, and we're going to use even verbiage that they prefer. And we all know the VIP that we kind of put on a little show for, and we kind of know what kind of attention they like, and we'll turn into that person when we're going to deliver effective reinforcement, right? So make sure we know what the VIP prefers. Just because they prefer to something, does that mean it's going to be reinforcing to them? No. How do we know if it's reinforcing to them?
If the behavior decreases.
Or increases?
No, if it's yeah.
Right? Yeah. Right. Yes. So yeah, exactly correct. Okay, so preferred. Let's keep going. Varied. So most people don't like to receive the same reinforcement all over. And actually, the way I think about it is that when I'm telling someone delivering the same reinforcement over and over and over, what happens eventually to that potentially reinforcing consequence? It starts to become what? Yeah, aversive. And think about this, guys, for an example. When we're eating food, we get into the Chinese buffet, and we're starving. We're so hungry. What do? Load up. We're shoveling food. We're loading up. People are telling, slow down, Mike. Slow down. Too quick. Right? So, and then we're eating. And what starts to happen? We're getting full. Are we eating as quickly? So we're starting to feel that satiation effect, right? And eventually, if we eat too much, what happens? Turns into an aversive, right? So now this super reinforcing thing a moment ago, has become an adversive. So we have to be very careful with our reinforcement. And I see practitioners doing this quite often where they'll have like a gummy or something like that, and they're delivering this gummy all day long. It's like, guys, by the end of the day, I'm sick of that taste. I'm sick of that gummy. I want varied reinforcement, and that's what's super effective on our brain. The same reinforcement, even if it's the same positive statement. Good job, good job, good job. You're like, if that person tells me, good job, one more time. Right? So you can see how these reinforcing things over time become adversive, no matter what the reinforcement is we're using. So it's important that we are varied. And you know, Ken Smith, one of our consultants, kind of put a test on his employees, and he would provide reinforcement for every different response or behavior the staff would give for a positive statement. That if they said the same statement twice in a row, that he would call them out for it, and then he would deliver, and then he tasked their staff to make sure they're delivering different positive statements every time they're delivering reinforcement, which I thought was a pretty clever idea, Ken. Okay, so varied. And certain, and we talked about certain. Consequences that are uncertain or may not happen aren't as effective to maintain behaviors. And we talked about the seatbelt example, right? We had all these consequences in the 90s. Police, accident, you could be killed in an accident not wearing your seatbelt. But that wasn't certain to happen. That was probably unlikely to happen. I was in the car a million times as a kid, and none of that kind of stuff happened. So very uncertain consequences. Very ineffective to change and maintain behaviors, right? So those reinforcements that are certain to happen are the ones that are going to maintain behaviors much more effectively. So if we have these 6 ideas in our mind when we're thinking about consequence strategies, your work's going to be that much easier. You guys, and we have a chart as well that describes these a bit more, which I will send out. Do you guys have any questions about effective reinforcement or the 6 things that we could keep in mind when we're delivering reinforcement? Any questions? Okay. So we have types of consequences. So these are the types of consequences that could happen after behaviors occur. Types of consequences. Here we go. So there's reinforcement. And a reinforcement means what? Does it mean something good I like?
Yeah, you're encouraging that behavior to happen again.
But does it mean something good I like? Because there could be consequences that occur that I don't particularly like, but could maintain my behaviors.
Doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a positive reinforcement. You can reinforce negative behavior either.
But how do we know? What does reinforcement mean? What is the definition of reinforcement? What does it mean?
I can't think of another word for like reinforce.
What was it? Rebuild? Go ahead.
Increase the likelihood for behavior to happen again.
Yeah, exactly correct. So reinforcement, all it means is that we're likely to see that behavior occur again. And we could graph the effects of reinforcement. The only way we know a consequence is reinforcing is to graph it and to see that behavior increase over time. That's the only way to know something is reinforcing. So many times, especially, they might try to confuse you on your exams, your BCBA exams or your RBT exams. And they might say reinforcement means something good or something nice. But that is not true, because even consequences that we do not prefer could be effective to maintain behaviors. Right? Maybe arguing with someone. And you start to see an increase in the arguing happening over time. Well, I don't like the consequence particularly of arguing with someone, right? I don't enjoy that. And I don't enjoy what happens after having to repair this relationship with this person. But for some reason, it continues to happen over and over again. I got to say that consequence is reinforcing, right? So when we see behaviors maintain or increase over time, that is what reinforcement is all about. And we can only know that by doing what? Tracking and taking data. So without our data, we're really lost. We're really lost. And on the graph, what does the reinforcement look like? Is it a slope up or a slope down? Up. Yeah, up. Slope up. We're going to see an increase or maintain, or it's going to be flat line. Okay, let's go. Extinction. So what do we mean by extinction? Is this about dinosaurs and stuff?
Almost like a term for plant ignoring.
Okay, so plan ignoring could be a strategy for an intention-maintained behavior, right? And what are we doing with that? What are we doing with extinction? We are, removing or withholding the reinforcement. So that's what extinction is all about, withholding reinforcement, right? And it doesn't have to be someone else doing it. For instance, what if I came in this room and every day it was dark in the mornings now, I come into the room and what do I do to make it brighter? What was it? Turn the light on. Turn the light switch on. Positively reinforced. Light is added to the environment. I'm doing that every day. I come in and my light bulb burns out. What do? I flip on the light switch. No light. Reinforcement is withheld. How many days do you think I'll keep coming in and flipping that light switch on? Probably for a few days. And if you know me, probably a little bit longer. So I would probably do that for several days in a row, right? Until the behavior has diminished in a way that I no longer come in and turn on the light. Because now reinforcement is withheld. I'm no longer contacting reinforcement with the behavior that I was reinforced to do. Right? So now reinforcement is withheld. So what might I do is kind of like a symptom of extinction.
Get angry?
Yeah, I could get angry here. I could flip on the light switch. Man, I need light in here to work. What's going on? And get upset. What else might I do? Go ahead.
Stop the light bulb.
That's right. Yeah, get a light bulb, right? And that's extinction-induced behavioral variability, where I'm gonna do another behavior now to contact reinforcement, which is how we kind of learned and survived as early people. Go ahead, Sean.
Basically, so you're going to stop doing it, and then eventually you're going to get a new light bulb or fix this.
Yeah, and there's a lot of unwanted symptoms of extinction, right? And I could do an extinction burst. And what would be an example of extinction burst for the example I gave? Does anyone know?
You could just flat out refuse to ever go into the room again,
I may never go into the room again.
unless somebody fixes it. That's true.
Yeah, I could then ask someone to fix it, kind of extinction-induced behavioral variability where I'm going to change my behavior. When we talk about extinction, and a lot of times we hear extinction bursts. Like it's a really common thing we hear, I feel like. What do we mean by extinction bursts?
Behaviors increase.
Yeah, so the rate of the behavior is going to increase for a time. So what might I do to that light switch?
Punch it.
I might be flicking it on and off like a madman. Come on, work, right? Imagine that key on your keyboard not working. You need that T, right? So increasing the rate of the behavior to see if it works. Think about it, the vending machine. We contacted a lot of reinforcement at vending machines. Food comes out. Now that button's not working. What are we doing? Slamming that button, shaking that button, right? So unwanted effects of extinction. But extinction just means we're withholding reinforcement. No reinforcement's being delivered. And then finally we have punishment. And punishment is when what do we mean by punishment? What do we mean by punishment? And there's kind of like two ways that we need to think about it. The one way the effect of punishment is just a reduction in the behavior over time. Kind of the opposite of reinforcement. But also people can put aversives into place as a consequence. And we very commonly seen this growing up with our tough parents sometimes when we did something we didn't like. What might our parents do?
Isn't it like adding something unpleasant to reduce the behavior?
Yes,
Or removing something pleasant?
yes, Kerlin, yes, or removing something pleasant. And good job, Derry Ellis, too. Yeah, we're going to add something aversive to the environment or take something pleasant away, right? No longer are you going to be able to play a Nintendo 64 tonight. Sorry. And we're looking to see that reduction in the behavior, right? We never use punishment, guys, to treat behaviors in our work. And we rarely should use extinction in our work as well. And we described the unwanted effects of extinction. Why should we steer clear from extinction strategies in our work?
It's difficult to do it with adults because it's always kind of like, if you do this, you get this. You can't really do that without like an RPP in place with adults.
Okay, so it might be difficult with the client rights. What are some other reasons?
Can create an increase on behaviors.
Yes. So we talked about a lot of unwanted effects of extinction, right? And some of them were being aggressive. And think about, and we talked about flipping on and off a light switch. Not a big deal compared to what if we were treating physical aggression and now we're going to provide, we're going to remove the reinforcement. Well, that person might engage in a high rate of physical aggression. So and working with adults, that is something that we should steer clear of. We should try to avoid using these kind of strategies, especially with behaviors that could be aggressive in nature. Because how many parents, how many DSPs are going to follow through on a strategy that's causing problem behaviors? Right? So working with adults, steer clear of extinction strategies and only use them if they're recommended by a BCBA, which we try to not recommend these ideas because we should only default to what kind of strategies in our work? Yeah, reinforcement strategies because we know how to use them to avoid all of these symptoms of extinction. And many times, punishment has a lot of unwanted effects too. You start to dislike the punisher, you start to model behaviors, and now the VIP is learning how to punish you back. There's a lot of problems with punishment that we should be aware of too, but we would never use punishment. There are times, special occasions, where punishment is used. And the example that I was told was a woman in Florida who was eye gouging, and she was at the risk of going blind in both eyes, unfortunately. And this woman, some of you guys probably heard this story before, this woman, they had to get special approval from the governor to use a shock because reinforcement strategies, extinction strategies were ineffective to treat this behavior. So they wanted to put in place a shock. So this person would go for their eyes and they'd immediately deliver a shock to try to stop the behavior. The governor in Florida, it wasn't the current governor or anything like that, it was a while ago, refused to allow this to happen. The family up and moved to another state that would permit this procedure to be used. Unfortunately, the woman still went blind, so very sad story. But this was a very extreme case to save this woman's vision. They were considering punishment strategies, and even through all the regulation, it still was denied in Florida. Okay, so it could be used, it is a strategy, but we would never use it. And probably in this extreme case, a lot of other people would be involved, right? So we would never use it. And extinction, we're gonna try to steer clear from because we know there's a lot of unwanted things that could happen, like Diego mentioned, that we do not want to invite into our work. So we are gonna default to reinforcement strategies.
Mike, I do have a
Please.
situation that is coming up, I guess, on Friday, that somebody wants to extinct a behavior that would be happening at a Walmart. So I have to talk to this.
Yeah, and warn them about the potential implications of an extinction strategy. And I would be happy to help you with that, Sue, as well.
Yes, please.
Yeah, and it's important that we are knowledgeable about the effects of these three consequences because when I was new into the field, I'd be like, ignore that behavior, withhold, leave the task in place, right? And I would do all these things that I was causing actually problem behaviors to occur, and then people couldn't handle them, and they were inadvertently, I was shaping the behavior to be worse over time. Okay, so these are the three types of consequences. We only should be using reinforcement in our work. So what is the question you have for me when I say we should only be using reinforcement? You're telling me we're going to be reinforcing bad behaviors? Are you crazy, Mike? A little bit. Let's continue. So that's where differential reinforcement comes in. It's a consequence strategy. We hit that home. We're going to reinforce appropriate replacement behaviors while minimizing reinforcement for challenging behaviors. So we're going to dish out the reinforcement for appropriate behaviors and then minimize reinforcement for the problem behaviors. And we're going to consider matching law. Okay, let's continue. Two types of differential reinforcement. So these are the strategies that belong in our work, in our treatment plans. Here we go, types of differential reinforcement. There's differential reinforcement of other behaviors. There's differential reinforcement of incompatible behaviors. There's differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors. Differential reinforcement of high and low rate behaviors. These are the types of differential reinforcement, and we're going to get into each one a bit. Differential reinforcement of other behaviors. And guys, when I think about this, I just kind of pick it apart. Other behaviors. So what are we doing here? We're reinforcing other behaviors. That's correct. Yeah, so easy, right? When you say it like that. So what are we doing? We have a target behavior identified, usually a problem behavior. And we're going to reinforce the absence of the problem behavior specific time period. So we're going to say, okay, we have a behavior of verbal aggression. If this person doesn't engage in verbal aggression, every hour we're going to deliver reinforcement. So that's what we're talking about, other behaviors. We're reinforcing any other behavior that's occurring besides the target behavior. We're going to reset the time interval if problem behavior occurs. So if we see that verbal aggression, we are going to then reset the interval and wait again. And we're going to make sure when we use differential reinforcement of other behaviors that we combine them with other differential reinforcement strategies, because there's problems with this differential reinforcement of other behaviors. And what is a problem that you're thinking about? What is a problem with this that you guys think? Why can't we just use this one? Seems good. It's easy.
May not work for everybody.
Well, it may not work for everyone, perhaps. But what's the problem? Someone's engaging in verbal aggression because of what? There's a what behind it? A what? There's a consequence. Yeah, but why is someone, and the consequence is a need or something they're accomplishing, right? So someone could be engaged in verbal aggression to get what? Yeah, what kind? Just make something up. Water. Yeah, water. Yeah, water, right? So this person is engaging in verbal aggression to get water, and we're reinforcing them when they do not yell. What are we failing to do here? Teach them a way to get water. So what are we doing here? So we always want... Yeah, we're kind of stifling someone's ability, their only way to get water through verbal aggression. So we use this strategy, but we can never want to see it alone by itself. We always want to see it used in concert with other differential reinforcement strategies. For that is the main reason why, because there's no alternative being taught. There's no way that this person can access water besides the verbal aggression. So what are we doing? Not very well. But this could be a great strategies to use with our other strategies. So let's keep going. Differential reinforcement of incompatible behaviors. And I like to say incompatible, but the word I think about when I think of incompatible is what? If you guys remember. What's another word that I'd say instead of incompatible that really hits this one home? It starts with I as well. Yeah, impossible. Differential reinforcement of impossible behaviors. Okay, let's get into what this means. We're going to reinforce a desired behavior that makes the challenging behavior impossible to occur. And I think, because I have two young boys at home, and I think about them crying. What's a differential reinforcement strategy that most parents implement to help mitigate crying behavior? Okay, picking them up. But a pacifier. And think about how the pacifier is a differential reinforcement of incompatible or impossible behaviors. Because now when my baby's engaged in the pacifier behavior, what behavior is impossible to do? Crying. Very nice. Very nice. Right? What about for an implication with our VIPs? We have a VIP that's knocking stuff off the shelves in a store. And we were met with people that are like, we no longer take this VIP to the store because they knock stuff off the shelf. What kind of incompatible strategy might we put into place to help this person be successful?
Put something in their hands.
He can hold something on his hands.
Oh, you guys are awesome. Yes, we're going to occupy their hands. We're going to use their hands. We mentioned this recently in a strategy with one of our workers who's present today. I don't know if she would like me to say who, but she got her hair pulled recently. It was Natalia. And we talked about what's in the car, and we talked about what's incompatible behavior.
Oh my god. Oh, keeping something in his hand.
Keeping something in his hands, right? Like his tablet that he really prefers. If he's holding his tablet, it makes that behavior kind of impossible to do, the other problem behavior. So we can use these ideas to help promote appropriate behaviors. We're going to reinforce other behaviors. I was working with a kiddo who he had a sensory behavior of touching other kids when, like during transitions. He would be like touching their jackets and all kinds of stuff like that. He liked the feel of all the different fabrics and all that kind of stuff. Very tough behavior to work on. So, and it happened in the hallway primarily. So I made a huge hall pass for him. And right? Thanks, man. And I was like, you know, what's normal in the hallway in school? A hall pass. So I kind of used that like, I was like, what's normal? So he wouldn't be like kind of like called out or seen as a little bit different, you know, for using it. So I made this huge hall pass that he had to use both hands to hold. He seemed like he thought he was cool having the hall pass. And then I would give it, okay, grab your hall pass, buddy. Grab his hall pass. And then he'd carry that, and it would make the behavior a lot less likely to happen, right? So we could get as creative as we want. Once we learn this strategy, we could be very creative and use our VIP's preferences to help promote appropriate behaviors. So whenever you see a problem behavior, think, what can I teach this VIP to make this behavior impossible? And that might be a good strategy to use in your treatment plan and in your work. Other strategies, and we've seen some of these ideas. How many people have heard like nice hands?
I see.
I put nice in front of everything.
Yeah.
It's nice touches.
Yeah, nice hands. Fold your hands, right? Those kind of, put your hands in your pockets, right? Those kind of behaviors we could reinforce to make the problem behavior impossible. All right, let's continue because I'm talking too much. Select the desired behavior that's in the VIP skill repertoire. So we want to make sure the VIP is able to do the impossible or the behavior we want to teach, right? We want to teach a behavior to our VIP that they weren't unable to do. And then okay, this is an example. Picking skin, we're going to reinforce using a fidget spinner. Make sense? Any questions about impossible, incompatible behaviors? And again, if we were to use this strategy, what's the other strategy we might use with it? The DRO, come on. Say it loud and proud. Grace, you're so quiet in these trainings. DRO. DRO. It's important. You guys know it too. DRO, differential reinforcement of other behaviors that we just mentioned. All right, keep going. And then, okay, differential reinforcement of high late rate behaviors. We're going to decrease or increase the overall frequency of behavior. We're not going to talk long about this. Let's keep going. So go back 1 second. I thought there was another slide about that. Okay, so differential reinforcement of high low rate behaviors. These aren't behaviors that are necessarily bad, but they're not either not occurring as often as we'd like or occurring too often as we like. So we reinforce a certain criteria, right? And I think about that kid in the classroom that's asking to go to the bathroom 30 times a class. And asking to go to the bathroom is a good behavior that we don't want to get rid of, right? But it's occurring at too high rates. So we tell the kid, hey, we're going to let you ask to go to the bathroom twice, once in the beginning of class, once at the end of the class, and if you do, you'll get extra time on recess or something, right? That's just an example we could use with a kiddo. And that's an example of differential reinforcement, low rate behavior. So we're trying to lower the behavior, right? Decrease the amount, okay? And then finally, our last differential strategy we're going to be learning about is differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors. And guys, this is our golden goose. This is what we strive to do in our treatment plan, because we're going to identify problem behaviors and we're going to then identify alternative behaviors. And what's important about this alternative behavior? Do you guys think?
That it's more appropriate, but also capable for the person to do.
Yeah, it's appropriate behavior. And we want to make sure the person has the skills to be able to do the behavior, right? So when we think about alternative behavior, what's a very good alternative behavior to help people meet their needs?
Communication.
Yes, communication, right? Talking, or using PECs, or using sign language. So many times that we are trying to help our VIPs learn a word to be able to meet their needs, right? Or to make a request, which is another word for what? Amend. Good job. So we want to teach our VIPs to mand, and not only for tangible objects and attention, but also for what? Yeah, to escape stuff they don't like, right? Which is the most common function for behavior, for problem behaviors, is to escape. So it's important that our VIPs have a way to escape that's more appropriate. We're going to heavily reinforce the desired behavior. We're going to minimize reinforcement for the challenging behavior. So you notice how I didn't say put these problem behaviors on extinction. And I also didn't say punish these problem behaviors. We are going to minimally reinforce the challenging behaviors. And why do we minimally reinforce challenging behaviors? Especially aggression, improper destruction, and self-harm.
Won't happen as often? Will you want
Well, if we reinforce, I mean, that it will.
Yeah.
It will, right? So why are we reinforcing problem behaviors? Why do you guys think? Are we going to avoid all those unwanted symptoms of extinction and punishment if we just use reinforcement? Yes or no? No. Yes, we will. Because we're not using it. We're not using extinction. We're not using punishment. So when we default to reinforcement, we're avoiding all those unwanted symptoms of extinction. Remember the light switch going on and off a million times, right? We don't want that to be an aggressive behavior occurring a million times, right? So we avoid these strategies and we reinforce challenging behaviors minimally. And what happens a lot of times when reinforcement's delivered to the behavior? What happens to the behavior? Of course, it increases over time. But what happens immediately to that behavior when a reinforcement's delivered?
Depends if it's a positive behavior or not.
Well, why?
If it's a positive behavior, then they get reassured and it's going to continue.
Over in the future.
Yeah.
But immediately it turns off the behavior.
Yeah.
Right? Well, sometimes, but think about it. If I'm having a challenging behavior for water, and someone gives me water, am I still engaging in the challenging behavior to get water? No. I have what I need. No longer do I need to have these effortful behaviors. If I have a challenging behavior to escape doing homework, and someone rips up the homework and takes it away, am I still engaging in those problem behaviors to escape homework? No. So we could see how we could shut off and control behavior by delivering reinforcement. So to me, it's a much safer avenue to reinforce problem behaviors because it turns it off. And I'm going to regroup and come up with a behavior support plan with the knowledge I learned. I would much rather, and we're upholding our clients' dignity and meeting their needs by reinforcing a challenging behavior because we do not want them to engage in behaviors that could hurt other people or hurt themselves. It's plain and simple as that. So we minimize reinforcement for challenging behaviors. We're going to behavior must lead to the same function or result as the challenging behavior. And behavior must be less effortful than the challenging behavior, and we're going to consider the VIP skill repertoire as Nadine let us know. So for instance, if we have a challenging behavior to get water, how can I heavily reinforce asking for water while also minimizing reinforcement for the verbal aggression or physical aggression. How might I do that?
When they ask for water, make it, put ice in it.
Okay, yeah, so we're going to make that, when they ask for water, very highly desirable. Right? We're going to make it the best water. When they engage in problem behaviors for water, we might give them a little bit of water. Right? A little bit of water. Tap water. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that, guys.
You're
I wouldn't do that. Okay, but we see what we're putting down. And this is important for our treatment plan, that we're going to heavily reinforce the desired behavior and minimize reinforcement for the challenging behavior. And what's likely to happen over time?
Over time, the desired behavior is going to happen more than the challenging.
Yeah, why?
Because you're highly reinforcing the desired behavior, even though you're reinforcing the challenging behavior, you're providing more reinforcement for the desired behavior.
Yeah, so we're going to get into the next idea with that is matching law. Oh, that was so good. That was so good. Matching law. So when we talk about matching law, go to the next slide, please. We're going to be thinking about two behaviors, a problem behavior and a desired behavior. And with matching law, what it means is that we are likely to go to behaviors that provide the most reinforcement, right? We are likely to engage in behaviors that provide the most reinforcement at that time, right? So when we, over time, and think about it very plainly like this, we have two buttons. And the two buttons, one's a challenging behavior and one's an appropriate behavior. And the appropriate behavior button leads to what?
Reinforcement.
What kind?
Positive.
Yeah, what kind? What are we talking? Greenery. Money. Right? Not excited about that idea? Okay. Reinforcement is the same for everyone, so I get it. Money, right? And we have the appropriate behavior leading to $100 bills. Every time I press that appropriate button, 100, 100, 100, 100. Every time I hit that problem behavior button, I'm getting $1. What am I slamming?
The $100 button.
Every time. As soon as I start getting that $100, I'm not even going to entertain the dollar one anymore. It's like, that's going to get dusty. I'm not even touching that. Right? Right? So that's what matching law dictates, and that's what we're trying to do with our work. The desired behavior is also going to be heavily reinforced. And we can not only make the reinforcement or the desired outcome the best reinforcement possible, but we could pair it also with what? Oh yeah, we could. You definitely pair it with the DRO. That's a good idea. But pair it with our praise and positive statements that I'm going to jump up and down and be so happy for this person when they engage in the desired behavior. And I'm going to minimize reinforcement for the problem behavior. And you could also use this idea for teaching independence as well. As I'm feeding my prompts, what can I do for a more independent response? Yes, but what kind of reinforcement am I going to give if we see a more independent response? Yes, I'm going to provide the best value reinforcement for a more independent response. And I'm going to provide the same or minimize reinforcement for a higher level prompt. If I'm doing hand over hand with someone and then a model prompt works, I'm going to jump up and down and go crazy for that model prompt. And I'm fading prompts that way. I'm using differential reinforcement to fade prompting that way as well. Does anyone have any questions about that idea? All right, let's continue, and then we have to wrap up. I hear people moving up there, shaking. Relative response rates will match relative reinforcement rates. So we talked about that. Making that desired behavior super reinforcing is a way to encourage our VIPs to practice this alternative behavior. When someone spends more time watching TV than exercising, so this is an example. When someone spends more time watching TV than exercising, even though they know exercising is better for them. Well, why? Because probably watching TV is providing more reinforcement that time. And that is the differential reinforcement training. I'll be around for a few minutes if you guys have any questions. Thanks for paying attention. Have a great day.